For years, Jelly Roll built his career on honesty. He didn't hide the pain in his voice, the scars in his past, or the struggles that shaped him. Fans connected to him not because he was perfect, but because he was real. His music felt like confession, raw, vulnerable, and painfully human. But behind the success, something far more serious was unfolding. Recent developments around Jelly Roll have left fans deeply concerned. Not because of rumors or shock headlines, but because of the emotional and physical toll his journey has taken. The man who once joked about his weight and laughed through his pain has admitted that there was a time he genuinely feared he might not survive if nothing changed. This isn't a story about fame gone wrong. It's about a body pushed to its limits, a mind carrying years of trauma, and a life forced into a moment of reckoning. Concert cancellations, public confessions, and dramatic changes didn't come from comfort. They came from necessity. Fans who see Jelly Roll today notice the transformation, but few understand the fear that drove it. The exhaustion. The wake-up calls. The quiet moments when success didn't matter anymore, only survival did. What's happening to Jelly Roll right now isn't what most people expect. It's heavier, more personal, and far more emotional than headlines suggest. And once you understand the full story, it's impossible to hear his music the same way again. Long before Jelly Roll became a chart-topping artist, his life was already marked by struggle. His rise wasn't built on polish or privilege. It was shaped by pain, mistakes, and survival. That raw honesty became his signature, and fans felt it immediately. His music didn't pretend life was easy. It admitted how hard it could be. But the same struggles that gave his music power were quietly taking a toll on his body and mind. For years, Jelly Roll carried more than just emotional weight. He carried physical strain that steadily worsened over time. Touring relentlessly, living on the road, eating poorly, sleeping inconsistently, all while carrying unresolved trauma from his past, created a situation that couldn't last forever. Success masked the warning signs, but they were always there. At his heaviest, Jelly Roll has openly admitted that everyday tasks became exhausting. Breathing felt harder. Movement felt slower. The body that once powered his performances began pushing back. What fans saw as confidence and humor was often a coping mechanism, a way to keep going without stopping to confront what was happening internally. The turning point didn't come from vanity or public pressure. It came from fear. Jelly Roll revealed that there was a moment when he genuinely believed his health was failing him. Not someday, not years down the road, but now. That realization stripped away everything else: awards, applause, momentum, and left one question standing. Would he survive if nothing changed? That kind of fear doesn't fade easily. It forces honesty. And for someone who had already lived through addiction, incarceration, and loss, the idea of losing his life to something preventable hit hard. This wasn't about image. It was about staying alive. Around the same time, the demands of fame intensified. The expectations to keep touring, keep delivering, keep being present for fans never slowed down. Jelly Roll has always felt deeply connected to his audience, often describing them as people who found comfort in his pain. That connection made it even harder to step back, even when his body was signaling distress. When illness forced him to pause, including canceling performances, it wasn't just physically difficult. It was emotionally crushing. Letting fans down weighed heavily on him. But pushing forward would have come at an even greater cost. Behind the scenes, the pressure wasn't just physical. Jelly Roll has spoken openly about how weight, health, and trauma affected his confidence in relationships. Those struggles didn't disappear with fame. They followed him, quietly shaping his daily life in ways few outsiders could see. The devastating part of this story isn't that Jelly Roll faced hardship. It's that he carried it silently for so long. He turned pain into art, but art doesn't heal the body. Eventually, something had to give. What makes this moment so powerful is that Jelly Roll didn't wait until it was too late. He listened to the warning signs, even when it meant slowing down, disappointing people, and confronting truths he'd avoided for years. Change didn't come easily, and it didn't come quickly. It came out of necessity. Today, when fans talk about devastating news, they're reacting to the realization that Jelly Roll wasn't just struggling. He was fighting for his life, while entertaining millions. That contrast is jarring. The laughter on stage, the honesty in his lyrics, The reality behind closed doors. This phase of Jelly Roll's journey isn't about downfall. It's about reckoning, about what happens when survival becomes more important than success, and this was only the beginning of a transformation that would reshape everything: his body, his career, and the way fans understand the man behind the music. When Jelly Roll finally accepted that something had to change, the decision wasn't dramatic or sudden. It was quiet. There were no cameras rolling, no public announcements, and no grand declarations. Just a realization that continuing the same way meant risking everything he had worked so hard to build. The first change was learning how to slow down, something that didn't come naturally to him. Touring had become his identity. The stage was where he felt alive, where pain could be turned into connection. Stepping back felt like losing part of himself. But ignoring his health was no longer an option. Jelly Roll approached his transformation cautiously. He didn't chase extreme solutions or quick results. Instead, he focused on consistency. Better food choices. Gradual movement. Listening to his body instead of pushing through pain. Progress came slowly, but it came honestly. As the physical changes began, emotional shifts followed. Losing weight didn't erase trauma or fix every insecurity, but it created space. Space to breathe, to reflect, and to heal in ways that hadn't been possible before. The fog that had lingered for years began to lift, revealing how much pressure he'd been carrying. One of the hardest parts was vulnerability. Jelly Roll chose to speak openly about his fears, his health, and the moments that scared him. That honesty resonated deeply with fans who saw themselves in his struggle. It wasn't inspirational because it was easy, it was inspiring because it was real. Still, the journey wasn't linear. There were setbacks. Days when motivation faded. Moments when the old habits tried to return. Change rarely happens without resistance, especially when pain has been used as fuel for so long. Letting go of that fuel meant redefining purpose. Public attention complicated everything. Praise came quickly, but so did judgment. Some questioned his methods. Others reduced his journey to numbers on a scale. But Jelly Roll remained clear about one thing. This wasn't about appearance. It was about longevity. He began talking about wanting a future that extended beyond the next tour. About being present. About not letting success shorten his life. Those conversations revealed a shift in priorities that many fans hadn't expected, but deeply respected. Health challenges also forced practical changes. Canceling performances wasn't easy, but it became necessary at times. Each cancellation carried guilt, but also awareness. The cost of ignoring limits had become too high. Through it all, support from loved ones played a crucial role. Encouragement replaced pressure. Accountability replaced shame. The journey became something shared rather than carried alone. What makes this phase of Jelly Roll's story so heavy is the realization of how close he came to not making this change at all. How easily momentum could have overridden survival. How success can sometimes disguise danger. Today, when fans talk about devastating news, they aren't reacting to a single event. They're reacting to understanding how fragile things truly were. How the man delivering hope through music was privately confronting his own mortality. This isn't a story about transformation as a spectacle. It's about listening before it's too late. About choosing life even when it means redefining everything you thought you were. And as Jelly Roll continues forward, one thing is clear: this moment didn't weaken him. It forced him to become more honest than ever, not just with his audience, but with himself. As Jelly Roll's transformation became more visible, public reaction shifted in unexpected ways. What began as concern quickly turned into commentary. Fans praised his honesty and strength, while others scrutinized every detail: his appearance, his pace, his choices. The same openness that once built connection now invited constant judgment. Fame has a way of amplifying vulnerability. When Jelly Roll spoke about fear, people listened, but not always with empathy. Some reduced his journey to headlines. Others treated it as entertainment. Few paused to consider how difficult it is to heal while being watched by millions. Social media intensified the pressure. Encouraging messages often sat beside harsh opinions, unsolicited advice, and unrealistic expectations. Jelly Roll became aware that no matter what he did, someone would find fault. Too fast, too slow, too open, not open enough. That constant noise made progress harder to protect. What many didn't realize was that this scrutiny came at a fragile time. Healing requires patience, and patience is difficult when the world is demanding results. Jelly Roll wasn't just rebuilding his health, he was rebuilding trust in his body. That kind of work can't be rushed, and it can't be performed for approval. The pressure to remain inspirational added another burden. Fans often look to public figures for motivation, but that expectation can be heavy. Jelly Roll never claimed to have all the answers. He shared his journey because he believed honesty could help others feel less alone. But being turned into a symbol sometimes felt overwhelming. There was also fear of disappointing people again. Canceling shows, adjusting schedules, and setting boundaries were necessary but emotionally taxing. For an artist whose connection to fans was built through presence, absence felt like failure even when it was essential. Behind the scenes, Jelly Roll worked to protect his mental health as much as his physical well-being. He learned when to speak and when to step back, when to share and when to hold space for himself. Those decisions weren't always visible, but they were vital. Fans who paid closer attention noticed changes beyond weight loss. His tone softened. His reflections deepened. Interviews became more introspective. The bravado gave way to sincerity. These weren't signs of weakness, they were signs of growth. Still, misunderstanding persisted. Some assumed that success should eliminate struggle. Others believed that transformation meant happiness was guaranteed. Real change, however, often brings discomfort before relief. Jelly Roll didn't hide that truth. What makes this so emotional is the contrast between public expectation and private reality. On stage, he remains powerful. Off-stage, he continues navigating fear, discipline, and uncertainty. Both versions exist at the same time. That the devastating part isn't criticism, it's how easily vulnerability gets overlooked. Jelly Roll wasn't asking for sympathy. He was asking for space. Space to survive. Space to continue creating without sacrificing his life in the process. And slowly, understanding began to grow. Fans started sharing their own stories, health struggles, wake-up calls, moments when they realized something had to change. Jelly Roll's honesty became a mirror rather than a performance. This moment in his life has reshaped how many people see him. Not as an untouchable success story, but as someone choosing life over momentum. That choice isn't dramatic, it's brave. As this continues, one thing becomes clear: Jelly Roll's story isn't about public approval. It's about preservation. About protecting what matters before it's too late. And sometimes that choice is the hardest one of all. As Jelly Roll's journey continues, the full impact of his transformation is becoming clearer, not just in his physical appearance, but in his life, relationships, and outlook. What many fans perceive as devastating news is actually a story of survival, resilience, and deep personal growth. It's heavier than headlines suggest, but it's also profoundly human. The man who once thrived on constant touring and high energy is learning a new rhythm, one defined by patience, boundaries, and self-care. Slowing down hasn't been easy. It challenges everything he's built his identity around. But in doing so, Jelly Roll is discovering something vital. Health, stability, and longevity are worth far more than applause or instant results. Relationships have shifted too. Family, friends, and his wife have become pillars in ways that weren't possible before. The journey forced honesty, not just with fans, but with himself and those closest to him. Conversations that once felt uncomfortable or unnecessary became lifelines. Support isn't just emotional. It's practical. It helps him maintain the progress he fought so hard to achieve. The public response continues to evolve. While some fans still view his journey through the lens of shock, more are recognizing the courage it takes to confront life-threatening challenges in the spotlight. It's not about vanity or image, it's about survival, authenticity, and teaching others that transformation is more than skin deep. It requires mental, emotional, and physical commitment. And Jelly Roll is doing it openly, without apology, even as he navigates setbacks, days of exhaustion, lingering health concerns, and scrutiny. There's a growing sense of purpose. He isn't just performing for audiences anymore. He's living as an example of endurance. His music, once a reflection of struggle, now carries an additional layer, proof that change is possible, even after the most difficult years. That message resonates deeply with people who have faced their own battles quietly. Jelly Roll's story also serves as a reminder that fame cannot insulate someone from reality. Success amplifies everything, triumphs, failures, and vulnerabilities alike. But it also gives a platform to model perseverance. By sharing his journey honestly, he has turned personal survival into collective inspiration. Fans witness not only a celebrity, but a human being confronting life head-on. Ultimately, what makes this so compelling is its complexity. Jelly Roll's life today isn't about downfall or scandal. It's about learning to live fully when every instinct pushes you to keep running. It's about making the difficult choice to pause, reflect, and heal. And it's about realizing that being brave doesn't mean never feeling fear. It means acting despite it. The sadness people sense isn't weakness. It's depth. It's reflection. It's the weight of survival in a life that has demanded strength at every turn. Jelly Roll is not just surviving anymore. He's transforming that survival into something meaningful, enduring, and profoundly real. And in the end, that is what truly matters. Not the headlines. Not the weight lost. Not the tours postponed. But the life reclaimed, the lessons learned, and the example set for anyone who has ever faced a moment where change was not optional, but necessary. Jelly Roll's story isn't over. It's evolving. And through every challenge, setback, and triumph, one thing remains clear: the man behind the music is stronger today because he chose life over everything else. And that choice, more than anything, defines him.